Hi there guys, welcome to another Ross Perry Productions video. Today we're going to be looking at one of my two personal bikes rather than someone else's vehicle for a change, which will be nice. So this is my 2010 KLR650, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down into 6 different videos to just separate the parts. I'm riding down to Melbourne from Sydney, which is about 1100 kilometres, for the Australian Superbikes next week. So I want to just do some servicing, make sure everything's okay and good. So part 1 is going to be an oil change. Part 2, I'm going to change the spark plug. Part 3, I'm going to replace the air filter with a new style air filter. It's an Australian made funnel web filter, so trying some new products, so that's good. Part 4 will be the front brake pads. Part 5, rear brake pads. And part 6, I'm just going to go through a checklist, things to look over just before you're about to go on a long journey, tyre pressures and the like. Welcome to part 1 of my mini series on how to service the KLR650. This is a 2010 model. This is where we're going to change the oil and the oil filter. So I've got everything around me that I need for the job. I've got, well, this is a paint tray, but a catch tray for the oil. I've got my new oil. This is Castrol's Magnatec 1040. So this is recommended for the bike. I've got a breaker bar with a 17mm socket on it. Have a 8mm socket for the oil filter. Got some spare copper washers. I never know what the condition of the one on the bike is going to be like, so may need that. Got a new oil filter. This is a twin air oil filter. Part number is HF123. So I've been informed this is the correct one for the bike. Pair of pliers. I'll show you why this might be handy soon. A funnel, just for putting the oil back in, and a measuring jug. I like to be quite specific with how I pour the oil in. And then, always needed, just a bit of rag to catch any drips and drops. Let's get started. Okay, so a few things you may notice. I've got the bike on a paddock stand. That's to keep it level and flat. Our oil is about 3/4 full, but you can actually see how black it is. So I know this hasn't been changed in about 5,000 kilometres, so I expect that to be fairly black. The other thing you'll notice, I've got a towel down on the floor. No matter how hard you try, you'll always get drips on the floor. Now, one thing I would say is I had the bike running about an hour ago, and what that means is there's still a little bit of heat in the engine, which is a good thing. That means that the oil will be thinner and it will drain out quicker and easier, and also you'll get more out. So that's a good thing. Just make sure it's not too hot. You haven't just been for a ride. You can either start it up for 30 seconds, maybe a minute, just to let the engine start to warm, or do it a couple of hours after a ride. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is undo this plastic cap. Now, they're often quite tight, so this is where your pliers come in handy, with a rag. Just loosen it off like that, and we're going to take that all the way off, and that will stop the vacuum effect when the oil starts to drain out. So just put that somewhere safe. Now, something I'm going to do, but it's optional, I'm going to take this belly pan off. Now, when you undo your oil filter, oil always runs down and it catches on the bottom of that. I'd rather not risk it, and I'm just going to take it off. So there's 4 8mm bolts. Okay, now ready for the fun part. We're going to undo this 17mm bolt here. So you can actually see how dark the oil is here. It should really be like a nice caramel colour. Okay, so the oil will keep draining for quite a while, so I'm just going to rotate the tray. And just put it so it'll also catch the oil that comes out of the filter. Then going to get our 8mm socket. So you'll notice the oil filter cap has this tab at the bottom. That's for you to get like a flathead screwdriver or something flat. And just to very slowly start going round, loosening off the cap, which looks just like that. Now to get the oil filter out, you might want to just get a screwdriver or something, put it straight out. Now you do need this middle bar. You'll notice it's actually smaller on one end. That's the end that goes into the motorcycle. You can see this oil filter is pretty dirty, pretty black. I'll compare it with our new one in a second. And also you might want to just help some of the old oil get out there. Use your rag. Okay, now take the time to compare your new filter with your old. You'll see this one starts to go a bit frayed and it's a lot darker in colour. Just check the sizes are right. The centre bore's the same size and they're the same length. Now to make sure we've got all of the old oil out, I'm going to take the bike off of the paddock stand and just rock it from side to side just to make sure any oil finds its way out. Okay, so I've left the bike to drain for over an hour now, and I'm going to start by putting the oil filter back in. So get your new filter, make sure it doesn't have a direction on it. These ones don't tend to. I'm going to do it so that the writing stays out, just in case I ever want the reference number. Get your new pin. I've just got a cap of the new oil here. So just put a little bit of the new oil around the rubbers. Put some around the pin, just to make sure it doesn't nick anything when it goes in. We're just going to get that all the way back in. Get the filter cap, give it a bit of a clean. And same thing, get a bit of new oil, just rub it around the O-ring like that. And then there's an arrow there pointing upwards. Making sure it gets located. Now you'll notice it doesn't come fully back, and that's because the rubbers haven't been compressed yet. Now unfortunately I don't have a copper washer that size. I have checked, but this one's not in too bad a condition. But I have noticed that this isn't one with a magnetic pickup, so I probably will change this sump plug out in the near future for one with a magnetic pickup and of course a new washer on. So for the sake of this video I'm going to put this one back in. Now just give the area one final wipe. Make sure your plug's nice and clean. Both sides of the washer if possible. And just start to screw that back in by hand. Now before I start putting the oil back in, I'm just going to put the bike back on its paddock stand to make sure it's nice and level. So I'm going to go ahead and just put my funnel in there ready to receive the oil. And I'm going to fill up my measuring jug 500 millilitres at a time, and the specs say the bike should take 2.5 litres. I'm just going to use my measuring jug 500 ml at a time, The specs say that the bike can take 2.5 litres from dry, which I hope it is now. So that's 2.3 litres, and it's showing us just as about full. So what I'm going to do, drop it down on the paddock stand and lift the bike upright and see where we stand. So I'd suggest that's about right. So we've put 2.3 litres in there, and what I'll do is once I run it up, I'll just keep an eye to make sure that that doesn't go down at all. But we haven't managed to put the whole 2.5 litres in. Just put your cap on. No need to do it up with the pliers. Okay, so the finishing touches for me. I'm going to put my belly pan back on. One last thing I'd like to mention is the oil will have not made its way around the filter yet, and this could be the reason why we couldn't get all of the oil in there. So do run the bike up, leave it running for a few minutes, turn it off, let it cool down, and then see where you are with the oil levels. If it's dropped a fair bit, just make sure to top it up. We've got about 200 mil to play with on this bike, so I'd imagine after I go for a ride, that'll probably need that 200 mil. And there you go, that's my video on how to replace the oil and the oil filter on a 2010 KLR650. If you found this video helpful, please check out all of my other videos on the KLR or any of the other videos on my channel. Please also support me by giving me the thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.